Talk your great. Talk your. Shut up. Now it's time for me to talk my shit. Where the was that, babe? Where they was at? Where they was at?
Please speak up for my sister, y'all. Please. And for them to take her life for nothing. It's hurting me. It's hurting my dad. It's hurting her mom.
This is 30-year-old Jeremy Capable, a Memphis mother whose life was taken just moments after picking up her husband from prison, a reunion meant to mark a new beginning that instead ended in irreversible loss. In the early hours of November 11, 2021, Memphis police responded to a call on Print Avenue in the Nutbush neighborhood of Memphis, Tennessee, less than 2 miles from Jeremy's home. When officers arrived later that evening, they found Jeremy slumped in the driver's seat of her white Jeep Cherokee, shot in the head at close range. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Just hours earlier, Jeremy had been moving through what should have been an ordinary moment, driving through her own neighborhood after reuniting with her husband following his release from prison, believing the hardest chapter was finally behind her. There were no signs of a struggle, no evidence she tried to escape, and nothing to suggest she expected danger in those final moments. But before we get to how that quiet drive ended in a killing, we have to go back to where everything started. This is the life and death of Jeremy Capable.
This me you a credit done. Hey. You heard of the last time. That like position. I ain't even had a scrap on me. I didn't go walking in with straight facts from me.
You was gonna let them run a train on you?
No. You overreacting as usual, Diamond.
Oh, I'm overreacting? No, you tripping. How am I supposed to watch you when you keep trying to leave the club all the time?
Watch me? Wait a minute, now you supposed to be watching me? Who told you to watch me?
Jeremy Capable was born in the mid-1990s and raised in Memphis, Tennessee, in a family where closeness and responsibility were expected. From an early age, she was surrounded by strong ties to her parents and extended relatives, growing up in an environment where showing up for one another was routine, not optional.
You going live? Oh my God.
That foundation shaped how she moved through life. Even before motherhood entered the picture, Jeremy was known as dependable. Family members described her as steady and present, the kind of person who stepped in when others needed help without asking for recognition. She wasn't loud about her care for people, but it showed through consistent action and loyalty. Jeremy attended Hamilton High School in Memphis, where she was remembered as social, confident, and direct. She formed close friendships, held her ground when disagreements arose, and earned respect for being honest without being cruel. After graduating, she continued her education at the University of Memphis, viewing college as a path toward long-term stability rather than a pause from real life. As an adult, work became central to her routine. She supported herself consistently and valued structure and independence. Over time, she took on a defining role, becoming a full-time caregiver and mother figure to her 2 nephews. Though not her biological children, she raised them as her own, building her life around providing stability, structure, and a future for the people who depended on her. And that brings us to the relationship that she held dear, without knowing that it is this same relationship that would destroy her. Jeremy was in a romantic relationship with a convicted felon, Ronaldo Wright, also known as DBO Grape. And despite him being incarcerated, Jeremy never hid this relationship.
I don't want to ship it this minute. Another woman that can suck this dick. It's the time, in the moment, this shit. Fucking in with straight facts from me. I don't want to ship it this minute. Another woman that can suck this dick. It's the time, in the moment, this shit.
It was even public, visible, and openly acknowledged on her social media. But before understanding what that relationship meant, it's important to understand how it began, not in chaos, but in commitment. Their relationship was built during a period of separation. Ronaldo was incarcerated for several years, serving approximately 4 years in prison. The specific details of his convictions were not always clearly outlined in public records, but what was consistent across reporting was that he had a criminal history that kept him entangled with the justice system for much of his young adulthood. Courtrooms, attorneys, and prison walls were familiar territory for him. Jeremy knew this history, and despite it, she stayed, a decision that would eventually cause her to lose everything. And that choice would later become central to how her story was discussed, but at the time, it was framed by loyalty rather than fear. Jeremy wrote openly about waiting for Ronaldo during his incarceration. She maintained communication through letters, phone calls, and visits.
Free be great. Listen to what you're saying now. I don't care. I'm about to free be great. I said free be great to be great free.
I know you happy because you stayed talking about that.
Waiting on your niggas.
Yes, I stayed talking about my dude.
I'm waiting on your dude. I know some.
Because I really missed him. Can't wait till he walk out.
She didn't distance herself quietly. She stood firmly in the relationship, believing that time served could also mean time changed. And for a long while, that belief seemed unshaken. But before we talk about what that history carried with it, it's important to understand why the relationship mattered so much to her. Because for Jeremy, love wasn't abstract, it was active. She didn't treat the relationship as something she endured, she treated it as something she invested in. On social media, she celebrated milestones tied to Ronaldo's release, framing his return not as a risk, but as a fresh start. Her posts spoke about patience, growth, and second chances. They reflected a woman who believed deeply that people were more than their worst decisions.
And that belief wasn't naive. It was consistent with how she lived every other part of her life. She had already taken on responsibility that wasn't required of her. She had already chosen stability over ease. Standing by someone through incarceration wasn't a deviation from her character, it was an extension of it. But relationships built during incarceration carry weight once freedom enters the picture. Ronaldo's release in 2021 marked a significant shift. After 4 years behind bars, he returned to the outside world, and Jeremy was there to meet him.
Big great! Oh, fuck's it. Hold on, they let me great now. Big grape home, ain't no more free grape, big grape free, yeah, yeah. We put this on for you, big grape. Talk your shit, great. Talk your shit. Shut up. Now it's time for me to talk my shit. Where the was that, babe? Where they was at? Where they was at?
That reunion was meant to begin a new chapter, one focused on rebuilding, reintegration, and moving forward together. Jeremy spoke about that period as one of hope. She framed it as a time to finally align love with presence. But history doesn't disappear when prison doors open.
For sure. What's up, great? Stepping out for sure. What's up, Jay Great? Man, take that shit off. Look at Leah. Oh, man, y'all got her money with. She ain't fucking with.
Ronaldo's past didn't dissolve overnight. While he was free, the reality of his prior entanglements still existed. His criminal history followed him, shaping how others viewed him and how his movements were interpreted. Even without new charges, the shadow of past involvement lingered. Jeremy was aware of this, and yet she didn't retreat. Instead, she doubled down on the relationship, believing that proximity and support could stabilize what incarceration had interrupted.
Jed at home, ain't no more for him.
Hit the lights. What's going on in her? I opened the blinds up.
And he is happy.
Our balloon stayed in place. Thank the man above, Jesus. And then in front of these two, you can sit on the floor in front of these. Where my phone? It's right there. Let me take a picture in front of them. Come on here and see the rest for this shit get messed up. Cheese clap on this one.
To her, loyalty wasn't conditional, it was a constant. But even strong bonds can be tested by circumstances they didn't create. And while there is no public evidence of domestic violence or documented conflict between Jeremy and Ronaldo, investigators would later note that timing mattered. The transition period after release is often volatile, not because of intent, but because of pressure. adjusting to freedom, rebuilding income, navigating old associations, all of it stacks quickly. Jeremy stood beside him through that adjustment period. She did so while continuing to work, while continuing to raise her nephews, while continuing to manage a household. Her days were full, structured, and focused. There is no indication that substance abuse or reckless behavior defined her routine. She was not known for frequenting bars or engaging in destructive habits. Her movements were practical, errands, responsibilities, obligations woven into everyday life. And that normalcy is important because it meant she was not moving through danger knowingly. She wasn't seeking conflict. She wasn't anticipating harm. She was living within a routine she had built carefully over years of responsibility. But sometimes, routine is exactly what makes danger invisible. As the weeks passed after Ronaldo's release, life appeared to settle into a rhythm. The future felt possible again. But then, subtle pressures began stacking quietly, the kind that don't announce themselves, the kind that sit beneath optimism. And while nothing outward suggested that things were about to unravel, timing has a way of tightening when no one is watching. Because just when it seemed like life was aligning, circumstances were shifting underneath it. And little did Jeremy know, the choices she made out of loyalty and love were about to intersect with forces she never saw coming. For the first time in a long while, the story was moving toward a turn that no amount of preparation could soften. And the moment when everything went wrong was already forming, just out of sight. In the early hours of November 11th, 2021, the direction of Jeremy Capable's life was violently and irreversibly altered. Sometime before dawn, Jeremy was driving through the Nutbush neighborhood of Memphis, Tennessee, less than 2 miles from her home. The street was Print Avenue, a residential area where nothing about the setting suggested danger. This was not a highway, not a crowded commercial strip, not a place associated with chaos. It was a quiet stretch of road, familiar, routine, and close to where she lived. That detail matters, because it means Jeremy was not far from safety. She was not traveling through unfamiliar territory. She was not meeting strangers in unknown places. She was moving through a space she knew, and yet that familiarity offered no protection.
At some point during that short drive, Jeremy's white Jeep Cherokee came to a stop along Print Avenue. What happened next unfolded quickly and without witnesses stepping forward. There were no signs of a struggle inside or outside the vehicle, no broken glass, no evidence that she tried to flee. The absence of chaos suggested something even more chilling. Whoever approached her did not need to force their way in, which meant she likely knew them, or at least trusted them enough not to panic. That realization would later become one of the most unsettling parts of the case. Jeremy was shot once in the head at close range while seated inside her vehicle. The precision and proximity of the gunshot indicated the shooter was within arm's reach. This was not random gunfire. This was not a stray bullet. It was a deliberate act carried out at intimate distance. And just like that, her life ended. There was no opportunity for escape, no chance to call for help, no warning that would have allowed her to protect herself. The violence was sudden, contained, and final. When Memphis police responded to the scene later that day, around 6 p.m., they found Jeremy slumped over in the driver's seat of her Jeep. First responders arrived quickly, but it was already too late. She had died where she sat. She was 30 years old, and the silence around her told its own story. There were no immediate suspects, no weapon recovered at the scene, no eyewitnesses willing to come forward. What should have been a busy neighborhood offered no clear answers. The lack of visible struggle and the clean execution left investigators with a narrow but terrifying conclusion. This was not spontaneous violence. This was intentional.
A loving mother, sister, and daughter now at the center of a murder investigation. Memphis police found the 25-year-old killed in the Nutbush neighborhood. The woman's family continues to mourn while police search for her killer in tonight's Manhunt Monday.
He took my little sister for nothing, man. She do nothing to nobody.
Candace Parker and her father are searching for a killer. Memphis police say 25-year-old Journey Caples was last November in Nutbush.
She told me she was going to school, and when she left school, she was going to meet somebody to get some shoes. I guess she never made it that far.
Parker says she tried calling her sister, but her calls went unanswered. Something Parker says was highly unusual for the mother of two. So Parker went to her sister's house looking for answers.
When I got to my sister's house, I felt it. Something was wrong. And that's when the detectives told us we had to stay there for a minute. When they said that, I already knew my sister was gone.
Parker says detectives told them they found her sister's body inside her white Jeep Cherokee on Prince Street.
She got shot in the head, came out through the back, through her side. I never think I'd put my sister in a casket, man. We just want justice for her, that's it.
Parker believes the gunman may have known her sister and says she may have been the target of a robbery.
I just want justice for my sister. I can't sleep, I can't eat, y'all. I need help. I need help.
If you know who Journey Caples, you're urged to call Crime Stoppers at 901-528-CASH. Your tip could help put a dangerous criminal behind bars and $2,000 cash in your pocket. Remember, all calls are confidential.
But what investigators discovered next would complicate everything. A nearby doorbell camera captured footage of a person exiting Jeremy's vehicle and walking away from the scene. The figure moved calmly. No running, no hesitation, no panic. Just a steady walk down the street, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. That footage would haunt Jeremy's family because it showed someone who knew exactly what they had done. The video did not clearly show the person's face, but it offered crucial details: their build, their clothing, their direction of travel. It confirmed what police already feared, that the person responsible did not act out of fear or desperation in the moment. They acted with control. However, one detail from that footage refused to fade into the background. The person walking away was carrying a brown MCM designer backpack. It stood out immediately, not because it was rare, but because it was memorable. In a neighborhood where people notice what others wear and carry, it was the kind of detail that could stick. For Jeremy's father, that backpack became more than an accessory. It became a possibility, a small but specific marker that someone, somewhere, might recognize. He held on to that detail as proof that the person responsible hadn't vanished completely, only slipped out of view. But a visible detail, no matter how distinct, could only take the investigation so far. The footage showed how the person left, but it didn't explain why Jeremy was there, or who she had been expecting in the moments before her life ended. As detectives began piecing together Jeremy's final hours, they turned to her phone records, texts, calls, social media activity, anything that could explain why she was on Print Avenue at that moment and who she had been communicating with. But what they found only deepened the mystery. There were no threatening messages, no heated exchanges, no signs of conflict building beneath the surface. Her communications reflected an ordinary day, not one marked by fear or urgency. Nothing suggested that she believed she was at risk. That realization narrowed the scope of the investigation. Because when someone is killed at close range, inside their own vehicle, near their home, without signs of struggle, investigators don't immediately look for a random attacker. They look for familiarity, access, opportunity, someone who knew where she would be and felt comfortable approaching her. That line of thinking inevitably brought attention to the people closest to her. One name in particular began circulating in public discussion: Ronaldo Wright, known as DBO Grape. His release from prison had occurred just days earlier. Their reunion had been visible and openly celebrated. The timing raised questions that many people found impossible to ignore. But timing alone does not establish responsibility, and that distinction mattered. Despite speculation, no evidence publicly confirmed that Ronaldo Wright was involved in Jeremy's death. He was not charged. No arrest connected him to the shooting. Investigators did not name him as a suspect. The focus on him existed largely in public conversation, shaped by proximity and circumstance rather than proof.
Share the video. Everybody on here, just share the video, man. I'm sharing all these capping ass shit these motherfuckers doing him, the city trying to blame my image of him. I was talking about why I ain't saying nothing. What the fuck? I ain't got to post nothing on Facebook. Let me grieve how I'm grieving him. Let me grieve how I'm grieving. I ain't gotta grieve. I ain't gotta go live crying and doing all that cap ass. Want some likes and shares and shit. I ain't gotta do all that. I need junkie, broke ahead. All you hold junkie here. On God. On my little girl, y'all junkie here. All you that was just at my house, Erica, LaQuisha, Candy, all you junkie head, broke head. You know what I'm saying? Was just in my face, hear me. Now y'all getting on Facebook with all that cap ass shit. You hoes ain't doing nothing but Facebook. You hold that all you hoes know in Facebook, talking on Facebook, trying to get likes and shares and shit. Come on, man, ain't nobody with all that. Say shit one time, I say my little piece, don't go on, hear me. I ain't want to hear from me no more, hear me. Cause I don't do the Facebook. I ain't doing all that, hear me. These hoes getting on here trying to blemish my image, hear me. Everybody getting on here talking about he did this, he did that. Come on, man, y'all gotta be the most dumbest motherfucker ever, man. Anybody who sit up and believe that shit to my some. Man, anybody who know me, they all these outside, it motherfuckers from all out of town talking about some, man, what the fuck, where y'all coming from, man? Who the fuck are y'all? Hear me? But anybody who know me and any motherfucker know J-Bo, come on, man, y'all know who she rocking with. Y'all know who she love. Y'all know who she crazy about. Come on, man. Y'all crazy. Y'all know what's up with J-Bo. Y'all know where she get that Purple Heart shit from. Y'all know what's up with her, you hear me?
As the investigation continued, one painful truth became clear. The person responsible had not been identified. No arrest was made. No charges were filed. The individual seen leaving Jeremy's car remained unknown. And with each passing day, the silence surrounding the case grew heavier. For Jeremy's family, the absence of answers became its own form of trauma. Grief was no longer paired with progress. There was no courtroom, no sentencing, no explanation that could bring understanding, let alone peace.
And tonight, a family searching for answers 2 years after the homicide of Jeremy Caples. Our Zaria Oates sat down with the family about their search for the suspect and the grief they manage every day.
Nearly 2 years ago, Jeremy Caples was shot and killed across town from her family home here in Fraser, over in the Nutbush area. Her family and friends continue to look for answers every single day.
Please speak up for my sister, y'all. Please.
What happened to Jeremy Caples is something no family prepares for.
She was found in the back of the vehicle, slumped over on the driver's side. She had been once in the head.
This video shows a suspect leaving the scene. 2 years later, the person still hasn't been identified.
The murder was picked up by a door cam, leaving the vehicle, so which kind of led me to believe that the person might stay somewhere in the area.
So he searches the area frequently, looking for any clues he can find. A tragedy no one can wrap their head around.
Loving, kind, sweet, don't bother nobody. And for them to take her life for nothing, it's hurting me, it's hurting my dad, it's hurting her mom.
It was a senseless act of violence. That's all it was. And I hate that.
An act of violence, leaving every one of her family members searching for closure.
And I'm not going to rest, I'm not going to sleep, I'm not going to stop screaming justice for Jeremy.
Her father, Jerry Caples, does believe someone knows what happened to his daughter. If you know any information at all, please contact the Memphis Police Department's Crime Stoppers at 901-528-CASH.
In the days that followed her death, the community responded with shock and disbelief. Vigils were held. Purple balloons were released into the sky, not as a symbol of closure, but as a public reminder that Jeremy's life mattered and that her case was still unresolved. The gestures were simple, restrained, and heavy with meaning. Her funeral brought together family, friends, and community members who understood the loss not as a headline, but as a permanent absence. Jeremy was remembered not for how she died, but for how she lived, for the care she gave, the responsibility she carried, and the people who depended on her. And as time moved forward, the impact of her death did not fade. The children she raised continued growing without her guidance. Her family marked holidays and milestones with a chair that would never again be filled. The neighborhood where she was killed returned to routine, but never to normal. Jeremy Caples did not disappear quietly. Her story remains unfinished, not because it lacks meaning, but because it still lacks answers. And until the person responsible is identified, her case stands as a reminder of how easily a life can be taken and how difficult it can be to restore justice once silence takes hold.
What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.